Hello, welcome to today's section. We are going to talk about writing research proposal. So what is a research proposal? A research proposal is a written plan that identifies the major elements of the study, such as the research problem, purpose, literature review, and the framework, and outline the measures and procedures for conducting the proposed study. So it's kind of a blueprint for your research. And a proposal is a formal way to communicate your plan for a study and seeking approval and funding to conduct it. So it's really important for a researcher to know how to write down a research proposal. So a well-written proposal usually can communicate with others about a significant, carefully planned research project and show the qualification of the researchers. The researcher is well trained with knowledge and skills, and also generate support for the project. So try to practice write a research proposal. And then I'm going to talk some types of research proposals. The first one is the student proposal, which we are going to talk more today. And also there are other two types. One is condensed research proposals. Another one is letter of intent or pre-proposals. And I will give some readings. Please read back to the class. And for the student proposal, it's to communicate students' research projects to the faculty and the members of university and agency IRBs. So student proposals are written to satisfy requirements for a degree, such as for master degree or for the doctoral degree, and are developed according to guidelines outlined by the university and the graduate division and all the schools or college faculty. So be sure what's the format, what's the requirement for students' proposal. So you do need to understand what's that requirements and follow that requirements, or maybe follow the format. And also the content of a student proposal usually requires greater detail than a proposal developed for an agency or funding organization. So usually for students, we usually use 2-3 chapters to write down, or maybe 4 chapters to write down the proposal. And usually for the quantitative research proposal, as a student proposal, we usually include several parts. The first one, introduction, and then review of relevant literatures, and then write down your framework and the methods and the procedures. And today I'm going to show this table. I borrowed this table from Gray, Dr. Gray and her colleagues' book, published in 2017, which I mentioned before. This is the major textbook for this class. And in the book, they describe quantitative research proposal guideline. So you can follow all these guidelines. When you write down your proposal, you may check if the part you already covered. If you covered, your proposal is really good. So let's go through the contents. The chapter 1 usually talk about the introduction. So in the introduction, you will write down about the background and the significance of the problem. And you may need to write down the statement of the problem and the statement of the purpose, which we have mentioned before. And also in the chapter 2, you need to write down the review of relevant literature. First, you may need to write some part about the review of theoretical literature, and then review of relevant research, and then summary. And then in chapter 3, you need to write down the framework. As I mentioned before, quantitative research usually has the framework to get the research conducted. So the framework, usually we will write down how you develop a framework. And so formulation of objectives, questions or hypotheses, And then you have your definitions, including conceptual definitions and operational definition. We also mentioned before. And then the last one is definition of relative terms, if you have. And then in chapter 4, you will write down about the method and the procedures. It's really, really important part for the quantitative proposal. First, you need to describe what the research design is. And then you need to identify the population, the sample. And then you need to select a setting, how you select it, what's the criteria. And then you need to present any ethical consideration, how you protect the subject's law, subject rights, and the healthcare agency review procedure you need to be followed. And then you need to describe, if you have intervention, you need carefully describe the intervention for your study. And then you need to write down the selection of measurement methods. How about the reliability, validity, and how you develop your measurement. And then you talk about plan for data collection and your plan for data analysis. And then you can say, go to the references and you should format and follow some APA format or maybe other format required. And also, have some appendix at the following. So this is for the quantitative research proposal. But how about qualitative research proposal? So I think in your mind, you may think about it's different. Yes, it's different, but the content's almost the same. And the qualitative proposal usually includes several parts. The first one is the introduction and the background, and then you review the literature, and you need to describe the philosophical foundation for the selected method and also method of inquiry. So I also borrowed the table from the book, and you see this is the qualitative research proposal guideline. It's really, really helpful for students. When you write down the proposal, I recommend you to follow this guideline and check if your content has been covered. So the chapter 1 is introduced and the background. You need to identify what's the phenomenon you are going to study. And then you describe the knowledge gap that the study will address. And then you identify the study purpose and study question and so on. And chapter 2, you need to review the relevant literature. But here, you need to pay more attention about the depth and breadth of the initial literature review, because there is kind of special requirement for the different type of qualitative research study. And you need to review the theoretical literature, also review the relative research and summarize. And then chapter 3 is kind of special part for qualitative research proposal. You need to write down what's the philosophical foundation for the selected method. And you may identify the type of the qualitative research to be conducted. And you describe the philosophical basis for the research method. Or you explain the guiding theory if one being used, or provide preliminary definitions. And in chapter 4, you need to write down the method of inquiry. We use the term inquiry for qualitative research. And in this part, you need to provide an overview of the qualitative approach and select a site and the population. And you need to describe the plan for the following. And also you need to describe the plan for data collection. And then you need to describe the plan for data analysis that begins during the data collection. So this is really special for qualitative research methods. And then you will have some other references format you need to follow, and also you need to put appendix under the proposal. So that's the qualitative research proposal guideline. I think from these tables, you will have a very clear picture about how to write a proposal. So thank you for your listening, and see you next time.